Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with the Warriors of Chaos, going to be taking on the Wood Elves. We are on, let's see here, don't remember 100%, the Doom Forest, something like that. We'll have to look after the fact at the map name, but anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the army compositions. I've got Big Bird here, Searing Doom, and Plague of Rust. Searing Doom going to be very good at taking down elf infantry, and Plague of Rust in case of tree units. We've gone all sword and board in the front line to just block as many missiles as possible with Chaos Marauders. We've got some Chaos Warriors with the Mirror Guard, and 2 sword and board Chosen. In terms of mobile force, we've got 3 Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes because they have a missile block chance, and again, the armor-piercing missiles against tree units. We've also got 1 unit of Chaos Knights with lances and a unit of Chaos Poison Warhounds. We'll go ahead and take a look at the Wood Elf army here. We've got Big Daddy Durthu. Yes, indeed. Big Daddy Durthu's supporting a pretty elite infantry corps here. We've got some Eternal Guards with shields and 3 Wildwood Rangers. One of them is the Regiment of Renown Wardens of Kithral here, who have spears and shields rather than the glaives. They have less weapon strength, but still amazing stats. And that armor sundering in particular are going to be pretty decent. So, yeah, very headstrong Wood Elf army, like it quite a bit. He's also got a Spellsinger Lore of Life, 2 Glade Riders, and 2 Sisters of Thorn, 1 of each in a group on the flanks, and that's pretty much it. So let's get the battle into full gear here. You can see I'm going to be pushing forward. We're going to try and meet in the middle here as much as possible. I'm pushing my cavalry, the Chaos Knights with lances at least, and these Poison Warhounds up through the woods over on this side. Definitely want to try and take advantage of that line of sight blockage as much as possible. We're taking a little bit of heat here, and especially with these Marauder Horsemen throwing axes, this is a pretty bad trade for me, just standing and taking this here. But I'm currently microing elsewhere, trying to bait Durthu potentially into an unfavorable engagement here. But yeah, Big Bird will take some damage, but it's not going to be too much from those sisters and the Glade Riders and so on because of that missile resistance there. So I'd much rather my opponent be shooting at Big Bird than the infantry here. But yeah, we're going to get the infantry engagement underway. The Wildwood Rangers will cleave through most of the Chaos Infantry here. You can see they have pretty decent stats, only 38 melee defense, so they will take a little bit of damage, particularly on the charge there. And like the Chaos Warriors will do okay. You can see the Mirror Guard doing alright on the charge, but once that starts to turn against them, they'll definitely suffer here. We've got Plague of Rust going down on Durthu, and looks like some other effects going down as well. We've got the Curse of Onrare debuffing the melee attack of all the units in this pocket. So very nice play by my opponent there. Durthu is going to take some damage, and we've also got the throwing axes sitting on the side, throwing said axes. We got the flank collapsing here with the Chaos Knights with lances coming in, getting on those Sisters of Thorn. They were previously hidden. However, over on this flank, Chaos Warriors taking a nasty rear charge here. The heavy armor will help them hold, but their leadership probably not going to hold out here. They're fighting Eternal Guard and just getting swamped by Wood Elf Cav. Meanwhile, you can see the Chaos Marauders definitely suffering here. Even the Chosen coming in going to take some damage against those Wildwood Rangers, especially with the constant Flock of Doom going off from Durthu. So yeah, we're definitely suffering in this frontline engagement here, although Durthu is taking a lot of damage as well. He's going to be having to pump in some magic from the Spellsinger there. The Chaos Knights doing a great job collapsing the mobile units on this side. That being said, we did get these Eternal Guard coming around the flank here as well, so things not looking necessarily great. Looks like we're going to be dropping some Searing Doom here, trying to get on these Sisters of Thorn, I believe, and some of those Wildwood Rangers as well. So yeah, I think it was actually just those Wildwood Rangers, but they definitely took some damage. But Big Bird's also taking an absolute beating from Big Daddy Durthu here. He does not want to be in this situation, so we're going to drop another Plague of Rust here, upgraded, and did take a nasty miscast there, but going to try and use these Hounds to screen these forces out. And we do a nice collapse here with the Chaos Knights with lances. They'll come in, and especially with their charge bonus active, they'll be able to do some damage to Durthu here, but it's not going to be great because of all the anti-large armor piercing troops all around. You can see the balance power starting to turn against me a little bit, despite the fact that we're working through a lot of the Wood Elf infantry, a lot of the Chaos infantry as well has been dealt with. And yeah, the Marauders are also taking some damage here, and Big Bird taking all this damage as well. in particular is going to be pretty bad for the balance of power, especially because Durthu's getting that Earth Blood. He's getting some healing. It's still very close at this point, but you can see each swipe that Big Bird takes there is going to hurt the balance of power more and more against me. So despite the fact that we're a little kind of winning out here, my opponent dodging that Searing Doom very nicely there, the Chaos Knight's going to come collapse on these Glade Riders. We're going to try and spread out here and get Big Bird to start dropping some Terror Bombs, see if we can't route some units off here. The Hound's going to be used to chase some routing units as well in just a moment. And yeah, Big Bird has magic attacks, so he'll get through the physical resistance of the Sisters just fine if he can get a hold of them. So a little bit of a slip-up of my opponent here is going to let me get a hold of some of these Sisters of Thorn. But the balance power is still definitely looking pretty bad for the Forces of Chaos at this point. These Sisters of Thorn are cleaning up a ton of units in the back line, and it's just very inefficient at this point for me. Despite the fact that we were slightly winning there and my opponent's pulling away, those Marauder Horsemen are probably going to rout off again, unfortunately. Chaos Knights have been able to get some really good work done. They're almost up to their second XP chevron. We just don't quite have enough to finish off everything here. You can see we did manage to terrify away this unit of Eternal Guards there. We've got some Chosen and Chaos Warriors left in this pocket, but there's still, you know, half-health unit of Eternal Guard here. There's still quite a few mobile forces as well, but still pretty close. Unfortunately, my Chaos Knights with Lances getting caught up a little bit here on these Eternal Guards. It's very inefficient because of their anti-large AP. I need to keep these Chaos Knights alive as long as possible to kind of ping-pong around, try and deal shock damage, because that's really the only way I'm going to be able to come back here, is to try and deal as much shock damage as possible and just keep units routed off with like terror bombing and stuff. But this huge unit of Eternal Guards that's still so healthy is going to be really hard to deal with. Dropping that Searing Doom right on top of them, trying to do some damage. We did a little bit of friendly damage, but did some decent damage to that Eternal Guards. Coming in again, trying to shut down the Sisters of Thorn with Big Bird since he has magic attacks. But at this point, things are looking pretty desperate, and more of my units are going to be terrified away by Durthu, and we just don't have quite enough in the tank with Sarthrel to take down Durthu. He's just got a little bit too much HP there. I left this Spellsinger of Lore of Life online for a little bit too long here, and she was able to come in and heal Durthu quite a bit. And yeah, if we actually take a look here at how much Durthu's got from his healing cap, looks like he's about to take another heal there. So already about 1,300 plus and climbing coming off that healing cap there. So if I'd been able to focus down that Spellsinger earlier on, it may have made a difference, but at this point the balance power is far enough behind that I don't think I'm going to come back. Despite that, you know, we're going to try and bring back as many troops as possible. You can see we are routing a handful of units away in different pockets, and it ended up being a very, very close fight, but just a few missed micros there with Sarthrel getting beat up by Durthu, and just turned the balance of power enough that I started having leadership issues, and at that point, you know, it was pretty much up a creek without a paddle. I definitely think that my opponent played very well here, not trying to take anything away from him. But yeah, it was a super fun battle. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. At this point, it's pretty much just Big Bird left, so we'll go ahead and fast forward through the end as he gets taken down by what remains of my opponent. So yeah, there were a few things I could have done differently there. I do think the army composition has some merit. Obviously, I was a little bit concerned about Way Watchers, but my opponent didn't end up bringing any, so it's kind of a bit of a counter-meta pick there. Durthu does quite well against Big Bird, although with what I had, I felt like I had the tools to deal with him. Again, we just didn't focus down the life caster, and at the end of the day, that War of Attrition ended up being a little bit too much. I also don't think that my Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes were wildly effective. They did a little bit of damage to Durthu, but they really kind of collapsed in the mobility game there, and you wouldn't really expect them to go toe-to-toe, even with Sisters of Thorn in melee, just because the Sisters have that melee defense, they have the support buffs, they just have better stats overall as well. So I definitely lost out in the mobility game there, so in hindsight, I'd probably switch out a couple of those guys, try and finagle some more funds to get a second unit of Chaos Knights with Lances, because they did very well, and particularly on that map I could have basically just done the same thing on both sides, kept the Chaos Knights hidden until the Sisters and the Glade Riders were nearby, and then collapsed on them. And if I'd done that on both flanks and been able to, you know, help clean up some of the infantry in the late game with those Chaos Knights, I think it would have made a big difference. Would have let my other units try and focus on Durthu a little bit more, but I didn't catch if my opponent actually had the Sword of Daith there, but that in and of itself will help those Eternal Guards and the Wildwood Rangers especially trade more effectively with the Chosen with shields, because it gives a melee defense debuff, I believe. We can actually go check that real quick. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure the name of that map. Something Forest, Black Forest, I think, is the name of the map. We can check here, actually. So if we look, Black Forest, nope, I don't quite remember. But anyway, we'll highlight that on another day. But in terms of Durthu here, I guess we can just go to Argolon. I just want to check if the Sword of Daith actually has a melee defense component. No, it's just armor actually, but it does deal direct damage, so I'm not sure if my opponent had that as well, but that, of course, will help drain away a lot of that elite infantry and so on. So yeah, in hindsight, I probably would have gone with a little bit more of a mobility-focused build. Maybe even not the Chaos Knights. Maybe I'd break it up and bring a couple chariots, because chariots tend to be pretty effective against Wood Elf infantry. Because they're so light, the chariots can just run through them quite easily. Even the anti-large AP units like the Eternal Guards, for example, the chariots, again, because the Eternal Guards are so light, the chariots can just run straight through them, and as long as you don't get like netted down or caught by Wild Riders, it can be pretty effective. Granted, my opponent did have the Sisters of Thorn and the Glade Riders to help bog them down, but if they would have been involved with the melee with the chariots, I would have been, you know, in that center line engagement as well, so maybe some of the Chosen and other units could have got involved with the Glade Riders, and it probably wouldn't be amazing. So, you know, definitely something to look at. I know if you go back and watch a lot of my videos from Total War Warhammer 1, and from kind of the early stages there, you'll see a lot of builds using Big Bird and like heavy chariot builds with a lot of mobility against people like Wood Elves and even the Empire, which I haven't used that quite as much, but definitely think it could be effective, particularly in the Wood Elf matchup, just because they typically won't bring Wild Riders to contest because they get shut down really hard by a lot of Chaos units. But, you know, it's definitely a dynamic matchup. I do think it's one that Chaos has the advantage in, but my opponent brought a pretty good off-meta build there that kind of caught me off guard. The Wildwood Rangers, even if I had just brought Transmutation of Lead here, that definitely would have helped that frontline engagement. My Chaos Warriors and the Marauders wouldn't have been shut down quite so hard if I had this Transmutation of Lead on Big Bird. But, you know, definitely my opponent played well. I made a couple of mistakes there, and it turned out how it did. So, well played to him. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.